Do you know who the devil is? I doubt it. The gods we killed became the demons we fear. The Christian devil isn't a singular entity that existed before Christianity. He's a composite, a shadow figure assembled from the gods that early Christianity had to destroy to establish its dominance. When you demonize a god, you don't erase them, you absorb them. Their attributes, their powers, their symbolic resonance, all of it gets transferred into your new mythology, but inverted. Made monstrous. This isn't conspiracy, it's psychology. Carl Jung identified the shadow as everything we repress about ourselves, the parts we deny, the qualities we reject, the capacities we deem unacceptable. These repressed elements don't disappear. They operate autonomously, leak into our behavior, and most importantly, get projected onto others. We see our darkness in the people we hate. What Jung identified in individuals operates at the cultural level too. Entire civilizations repress qualities, and those repressions accumulate into a collective shadow. That shadow needs a face, a form, a name. Enter the devil. But here's what makes the Christian devil unique. He's not just any shadow. He's specifically assembled from 3 Hellenic gods who each represented a function that the brittle Christian ego couldn't tolerate. Pan, the body and instinct. Hermes, the cunning mind and boundary crossing. Dionysus, the ecstatic spirit and ego dissolution. Together they form an unholy trinity, a functional system for managing boundaries that Christianity systematically destroyed. And in destroying them, Western culture severed itself from vital psychological capacities we desperately need. This series will show you how each god was absorbed, what function they represented, and what we lost when we cast them into shadow. By the end, you'll see the devil not as an external entity, but as a mirror, showing us exactly what we've refused to acknowledge about ourselves. Why the devil has goat legs? Look at any medieval depiction of Satan. Horns, hooves, tail, shaggy legs, playing pipes, dancing, presiding over orgies in moonlit forests. This isn't random satanic imagery. This is Pan, the Greek god of the wild, wearing a new name tag that says evil. Pan represents the raw, untamed life force of nature itself. He's the god of shepherds, of flocks, of the pulsing, immoral vitality of the animal world. His very form, half man, half goat, embodies humanity's inseparable connection to its own instinctual bodily nature. He lives at the boundary between civilization and wilderness, between the village and the forest, between what we control and what we absolutely do not. For the Greeks, Pan was neither good nor evil. He was necessary. He represented the parts of existence that can't be domesticated, categorized, or made to kneel before altars. His sexuality wasn't shameful. It was fertility, procreation, the continuation of life itself. His music wasn't temptation. It was the enchanting and sometimes unsettling voice of the wild. Even his most famous power, inducing panic, was the awe-inspiring moment when a human mind touches the raw, incomprehensible power of nature. But Christianity couldn't tolerate this. A faith built on transcending the flesh, on denying bodily desire, on establishing the soul's supremacy over matter. Pan was a direct threat. So they inverted him, systematically, completely. His goat-like features became the most iconic marks of the demonic. His sexuality became pure lust, a cardinal sin. His panpipes became the seductive melodies of temptation, luring souls from righteousness. His ability to induce panic became the terror of demonic presence, the fear of losing your soul to chaos beyond God's grace. The consequences were profound. By casting Pan into shadow, Christianity severed the connection between spirituality and the earth. The body, with its instincts and desires and ultimate connection to the natural world, was no longer sacred. It was suspect. Something to be disciplined, denied, transcended rather than integrated. We still live in this split. The persistent Western suspicion of the body, the fear of our own animal nature, the need to spiritualize or moralize what is simply biological. We've inherited a theology that made the devil look like Pan because it was terrified of what Pan represented, the parts of ourselves that can't be controlled. But here's what we lost. Pan wasn't the enemy of civilization. He was its boundary guardian, the one who reminded you where the village ended and the wild began. By demonizing him, We didn't defeat wildness, we just lost the ability to recognize where it starts. The devil at the crossroads. If Pan represents the demonized body, Hermes represents the demonized mind. Specifically, the aspects of consciousness that thrive on ambiguity, wit, and the crossing of boundaries. Hermes is one of the most complex gods in the Greek pantheon. He's the messenger, the trickster, the thief, the guide of souls, and the god of merchants, travelers, and crossroads. His domain is the liminal space, the in-between where categories blur and fixed truths become fluid. He doesn't represent raw knowledge. He represents translation, navigation, and the cunning intelligence needed to move between worlds. For the Greeks, this was divine. Hermes could speak to gods and mortals. He could move between Olympus and the underworld. He was the master of rhetoric, persuasion, and the creative intelligence, meti, that finds solutions by playing with the rules. Even his role as patron of thieves wasn't purely negative. Theft requires cunning, and cunning is a survival skill when you're powerless. But for a theological system built on absolute moral clarity, Hermes was intolerable. His fluidity threatened dogma. His trickster nature, which Greeks revered as creative intelligence, was reframed as malicious deceit. The serpent-entwined caduceus became associated with Eden's serpent. His mastery of rhetoric became the devil as ultimate sophist, using clever words to lead the faithful astray. Most tellingly, his role as psychopomp, the guide who escorts souls to the underworld after death, was grotesquely inverted into the most enduring devil image in Western folklore, the deal at the crossroads. The crossroads perversion. Hermes operated at crossroads because that's where his three sacred functions converged. As psychopomp, he guided souls after death, a service, not ownership. As divine translator, he facilitated genuine understanding between realms. As god of commerce, he oversaw fair exchange and honest trade. The devil at the crossroads corrupts all three. Soul trafficking. Instead of guiding souls after death, he purchases them before death. The psychopomp becomes a predatory buyer, deceptive rhetoric. Instead of facilitating understanding, he uses clever words to obscure the true cost. Translation becomes obfuscation. You think you're getting your guitar mastery or forbidden knowledge, but the contract was rigged from the start. Rigged commerce. You get temporary earthly success for your eternal soul. This isn't exchange. It's theft dressed as transaction. The god of honest trade becomes the patron saint of con artists. The crossroads itself, Hermes' sacred domain of genuine choice between paths, becomes a trap. What should be a place of possibility becomes a place of damnation. By projecting Hermes onto the devil, Christianity revealed what it couldn't trust: navigation of boundaries. Cunning intelligence, the possibility that you could traffic with the unknown and return unscathed. So the guide became a kidnapper, the translator became a liar, the merchant became a thief, and we inherited the belief that cunning equals evil, that cleverness is suspect, that crossing boundaries is inherently dangerous. We lost Hermes, and with him, our ability to navigate ambiguity without terror. Why Christianity fears ecstasy? While Pan represents the boundary of civilization and Hermes governs crossing it, Dionysus embodies something more terrifying: its complete dissolution. He's the god of wine, ritual madness, and religious ecstasy, the unmediated, intoxicating, ego-shattering experience of the divine. This made him the ultimate threat to organized Christianity, where the Holy Spirit was framed as an orderly, sanctifying force operating through the church. Dionysus offered direct access. No priests, no doctrine, no intermediaries. Just wine, music, dance, and the obliteration of your individual ego in favor of merging with the Godhead. The core of Dionysian worship was ecstasis, standing outside oneself. Through intoxication and rhythmic movement, his followers sought to dissolve the boundaries of the individual self and touch something vast. This wasn't drunken chaos for its own sake. It was sacred technology for accessing states of consciousness that the rational mind can't reach. For the brittle Christian ego, this was horror. The loss of self wasn't communion, it was demonic possession, a surrender of God-given agency to chaotic evil forces. The Maenads, his female followers who achieved states of frenzied power in their worship, were reframed not as conduits of the divine, but as monstrous, bloodthirsty agents of hell. Dionysus's central myth makes this threat explicit. He's the god who is torn apart and reborn, sparagmos, death, dissolution, renewal, the cycle that acknowledges destruction as necessary for creation. But Christianity needed linear salvation. One death, one resurrection, one path to redemption. The cyclical, chaotic process of continuous death and rebirth was unacceptable. So Dionysus entered the devil's shadow. His wine became the intoxication that loosens moral restraint. His ecstatic rites became demonic orgies. His sacred madness became simple insanity or possession. And the transformative power of ego death, the moment when you let go of who you think you are to discover what you actually are, became the greatest sin imaginable. The modern echo. We still see Dionysus in the devil today. Look at contemporary moral panics about elite excess, that island, celebrity parties, secret rituals of the powerful. These aren't fears of simple immorality. They're fears of Dionysian dissolution, bodies without boundaries, pleasure without restraint, the complete abandonment of individual moral agency in favor of collective frenzy. By casting Dionysus into shadow, Christianity rejected the possibility of spiritual transformation through chaos. It chose static obedience to doctrine over dynamic renewal through crisis. We inherited a culture that fears losing control more than it values transformation, that would rather maintain a brittle order than risk the creative destruction that could remake it. We lost the god of rebirth, and with him, our capacity for genuine spiritual transformation. The choice: face the shadow or keep feeding it. Jung's framework was always about integration, bringing shadow material into consciousness, acknowledging what you've denied, and incorporating it into your whole personality, rather than keeping it split off and autonomous. But how do you integrate a collective shadow? How does an entire culture acknowledge that its devil is its own reflection? It's almost impossible. Personal shadow work is hard enough. Most people never do it, spend their lives projecting their darkness onto others. But at least it's possible. You can sit with your own darkness, acknowledge your capacity for what you've judged, and choose a conscious relationship with it. Collective shadow integration would require Western culture to acknowledge that the body and its instincts aren't evil, just powerful. That cunning and boundary crossing aren't sins, just skills we've forgotten how to use wisely. That ego dissolution and transformation aren't demonic possession, just necessary chaos. It would require admitting we were wrong, that we killed something we needed, that the devil we fear is assembled from gods we should have learned to integrate. No culture does this voluntarily. Instead, we keep projecting. The devil keeps changing faces, wearing whatever mask reflects our current repressions. Medieval Christianity saw Pan because they feared the body. Modern conspiracy culture sees Dionysus because we fear our own consumption and excess. The shadow adapts, finds new targets, continues operating autonomously. But there's another option, not for cultures but for individuals. You can recognize the pattern, see through the projection. Understand that when you fear the devil, you're often fearing disowned parts of yourself. You can reclaim Pan. Acknowledge your own animal nature without shame. Reclaim Hermes. Develop cunning intelligence without guilt. Reclaim Dionysus. Allow transformation without terror. The gods aren't dead, they're just waiting in shadow, waiting for someone brave enough to turn around and look at what's been casting the darkness all along. To see the devil not as external enemy, but as internal partner. The disowned functions you need to become whole. The choice has always been yours. Keep projecting or finally integrate. What we cast into shadow doesn't disappear, it just waits.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. Share to help the channel grow.